New York City, a landscape of shifting power and rapid change, saw fortunes rise and fall within moments. A narrative began at Les Ailes Étoilées, a dining space so private its menu presented no prices. The individuals in this unfolding drama: a man who shaped markets, his name a byword for control, a figure whose wealth could acquire entire city blocks, and a young woman, a waitress, unseen, navigating existence. She stood poised to utter 7 brief words. 7 words: an observation, a gateway. Those words held the potential to unlock a 2-decade-old mystery, to reveal a hidden pattern of deception, to bring forth a past long declared non-existent. Her utterance, seemingly artless, would impact the powerful man like a physical strike, causing a sudden collapse. That fall would unravel a carefully constructed life. Inside Les Ailes Étoilées, the atmosphere held a distinct quality. It felt purified, scrubbed clean of the city's urban grime and the weight of striving lives. The dominant aromas were crisp currency, pan-seared scallops, and rich, layered fragrances. Alara Vance, 20 years of age, found herself in a realm where she provided service, yet remained an outsider. 6 evenings each week, she exchanged her worn canvas shoes for dark, gleaming flats. Her faded denim trousers gave way to a stiff, black uniform. Her distinct self vanished behind a smile, crafted for politeness and yielding. Her true existence resided far away, in a tightly confined 4th-floor walk-up in Queens. There, the air carried the lingering scent of boiling cabbage and her mother's specific lavender laundry soap. Amelia, Alara's mother, formed the core of her entire existence. This woman possessed a softness, a delicacy, her eyes holding a constant veil of bewilderment, as if eternally reaching for a memory just beyond her grasp. Alara always knew her mother experienced persistent weariness and significant gaps in her recollections. These issues all traced back to a substantial fall her mother endured long before Alara had acquired the capacity to shape her own early memories. Amelia retained no memory preceding her awakening in a hospital at 25 years old. She had no identification, no record of a past. Staff assigned her a new name. She then constructed a modest, new life. Their most cherished item, the sole thread connecting her to a life before her accident, was a ring. Amelia kept it on a silver chain, close to her neck. The ring presented a distinctive, striking appearance, a band of sterling metal, precisely shaped into 2 phoenix figures. Their wings, vibrant, seemed to intertwine, supporting a single sapphire, dark blue, tear-shaped. Amelia explained it resonated with her spirit, even if the giver's identity remained unknown. For Alara, this ring embodied the central enigma of their lives, a singular, valuable piece of evidence in an otherwise empty inquiry. Tonight, Alara's designated section welcomed Alistair Sterling. He was a man who did more than occupy space. He commanded and reshaped the environment to his will. Sterling Industries operated as a sprawling international entity, holding interests spanning technology, global transport, and real estate acquisition. News accounts labeled him his generation's reclusive Howard Hughes, a figure of keen intellect, followed by persistent whispers of a profound personal loss that had emptied his inner world many years prior. He sat in solitude at a corner table, his gaze extending over Central Park, an isolated presence at his own exclusive meal. He presented as a man of advanced years, perhaps late 40s, his eyes keen and perceptive, missing no detail. His jawline appeared molded from solid rock. He emitted an aura of immense command, tinged with a cold, deep grief. The other service staff avoided his table, leaving him for the newly assigned server. Alara moved toward the table, her outward composure practiced, yet her heart thumped beneath her uniform. "Good evening, sir. May I offer you a drink to begin your experience?" Alistair Sterling did not lift his sight from his phone. "Whiskey. Macallan 25. Unmixed." His voice produced a low, rough sound, expressing a clear dismissal. Throughout the entire service, he maintained an image of complete disinterest. He ingested food without savoring its flavor, consumed drink without enjoyment. He looked through Alara as if she held no form. She functioned simply as a pair of hands, refilling his water vessel and removing his emptied plates. As she placed his dessert, a carefully arranged tiramisu, her hand showed a slight tremor. The cuff of her uniform sleeve brushed against his. His head finally lifted. His eyes narrowed, showing irritation. But his gaze did not settle on her face. It snagged on her wrist. On a thin silver chain, she wore a gift from her mother, given for her 18th year. Over her pulse point, a small, delicate ring rested, a perfect, scaled-down version of the one her mother kept near her neck. Her mother had arranged its creation with a Chinatown jeweler, spending her small savings. A portion of their hidden story would always remain with Alara. Alistair Sterling's fork struck his plate with a sharp, piercing sound that cut the dining room's quiet. Every muscle in his body tightened, becoming rigid. His face, already pale, instantly lost all remaining color, becoming a stark, lifeless mask. His sharp gray eyes locked onto the small ring on Alara's wrist. A visible, unmasked shock twisted his features. He saw no piece of ornamentation. He saw a phantom. The silence at the table lengthened, growing heavy, stifling. Alara stopped, frozen. Her training urged apology, retreat, a return to invisibility. But she could not move. The force of his gaze held her. It was not anger. It was something deeper, a feeling of absolute ruin, a searing torment. His eyes, wide with profound disbelief, finally shifted from her wrist to her face, truly acknowledging her presence for the first time. He studied her features, her dark waving hair, the shape of her eyes, the gentle curve of her lips. He searched with a frantic, intense energy, as if seeking a known face among unfamiliar others. Confusion and a rising sense of fear swelled in Alara. She needed to speak, to break the table's frightening hold. She offered a slight, unsure smile. "It's a beautiful design, isn't it?" Her voice, barely a whisper, began. She moved her wrist, the tiny phoenix figures catching the ambient light. A need to connect, to move past her role as a servant, guided her. She spoke the 7 words that would change everything. "Sir, my mom has the same ring." The words settled in the air for a single beat. For Alistair Sterling, that beat expanded into an endless stretch of time. The carefully constructed fortress he had built around his heart for 2 decades shattered into fine particles. Blood drained from his face. His breath caught in his throat. What did you say?" he rasped, his voice broken, unrecognizable from its prior cold, deep tone. "My mother," Alara repeated, her confidence weakening under his direct stare. "She has one just like it, only bigger. It's her most valued item." Alistair's hand shot out, not to seize her, but as if to push away something unseen. His fingers trembled without control. His gaze left the ring, now fixed on Alara's eyes. A storm of emotions swirled within them, pain, deep confusion, and a growing, impossible hope. "Your mother," he stammered. The name formed a question, a desperate plea, a stark demand. "Her name? What is her name?" Alara had no chance to answer. His body failed. His eyes rolled back. A choked sound left his lips. He slumped forward, his head striking the table with a dull thud. The delicate dessert scattered. He then slid sideways, his large frame falling bonelessly from the chair and onto the plush carpet with a heavy, soft sound. Panic erupted. The dining room's hushed elegance shattered into screams. Jean-Pierre, the manager, a man often flustered, rushed over, horror etched on his face. "Call 911, an ambulance now." Staff and guests crowded around the table. Alara, shoved aside, stumbled back. Her mind spun with terror and disorder. One moment, a waitress making conversation. The next, a billionaire lay unconscious at her feet. What actions had she taken? What words had she spoken? His face, the raw agony in his eyes just before he fell, fixed itself in her memory. Paramedics swarmed the scene, strapping Alistair Sterling to a gurney. A man in a tailored suit, dining at a nearby table, took control. This was Marcus Thorne, Sterling's lawyer and closest associate. He spoke orders into his phone, his face hard and unyielding. His sharp eyes swept the chaotic scene, landing on Alara. Jean-Pierre questioned her frantically. "What did you say to him? What did you do?" The manager hissed, his job crumbling before him. "Nothing, I mentioned my ring." Alara stammered, raising her wrist as if it were evidence. Marcus Thorne overheard. He moved, his presence quieting the manager instantly. He fixed Alara with a long, assessing look, his gaze pausing on the small ring. He spoke nothing to her. He drew a card from his wallet, pressed it into Jean-Pierre's hand. "Find out everything about her," Thorne commanded, his voice low, firm. "Her name, her address. I want it on my desk tomorrow. Do not let her leave." He then left, following the gurney out into the night. Alara stood in the ruins of her life. The small silver phoenixes on her wrist felt heavy, a weight from a world she had not known. The next 2 days, Alara lived in a haze of worry. Le Ciel Étoile placed her on indefinite leave. The message was unspoken, yet clear. She was a problem, a risk that required management. The financial news reported the incident across all channels. "Billionaire Alistair Sterling collapses," screamed the headlines. They claimed stress, overwork, a possible cardiac event. No mention of a waitress appeared, no ring. Alara vanished from the official account, yet she felt at the drama's core, a drama she could not grasp. She spent her days in the small queen's apartment, caring for Amelia, her mother. The billionaire's collapse was a distant sound to Amelia, a mere rumble in her quiet world of books and potted plants. Alara watched her mother, tracing the familiar lines of her face, listening to her soft, slightly detached voice. She worked to link this fragile woman to the powerful man's violent response. It would not connect. Her mother was Amelia Vance, a woman finding joy in a perfectly steeped cup of tea, humming tunes slightly off-key while watering her African violets. She wore the phoenix ring on a chain, hidden under her blouse, a treasured secret close to her heart. Alara asked again about it. Amelia offered a wistful smile. "I do not know its origin, my love," she explained, her fingers tracing the interlocking wings. "But when I woke in that hospital, it was all I owned. It felt like an anchor. It felt like home, even without knowing home." The third day brought a summons. No call, no email. A black town car, sleek and silent, slid before their old apartment building. A man in a driver's uniform, hat in hand, knocked on their door. He informed Miss Alara Vance Mr. Thorne required her presence. It was no request. The ride downtown became a passage into another dimension. The car's leather interior held a new, rich scent. City noise softened to a distant hum. Alara felt small, unfit, and out of place. Her worn cardigan spoke against the polished world she entered. She went not to an office, but to the penthouse floor. Manhattan's most exclusive private hospital. A place where the rich healed in opulent, hotel-like rooms. Marcus Thorne met her at the elevator. He stood tall, dressed without flaw, possessing a calm usually seen in those who resolved billion-dollar crises before morning. "Miss Vance," he spoke, his voice even. "Thank you for coming. Mr. Sterling is awake. He wants to see you." He led her down a quiet, carpeted hall. 2 large wooden doors appeared. A security guard stood outside, impassive. "He is still weak," Thorne warned. "Doctor stabilized him. No heart attack." It was a shock. A deep, psychological shock. Alara's heart beat hard against her ribs. "I don't understand. What actions did I take?" Thorne stopped, his gaze sharp and analytical. "That is what we seek. You spoke of a ring, your mother's. Mr. Sterling shows great interest. Before you enter, know this. The man you meet has not been whole since his wife Liana died in a car crash 20 years ago. He lives in the past. Keep that in mind." He opened the door, motioning her inside. The hospital suite dwarfed her entire apartment. City views stretched outside, but drawn blinds kept the room in dim, somber light. Alistair Sterling sat not in bed, but in an armchair by the window. Silk pajamas and a robe covered him. A discreet IV drip connected to him. A heart monitor pulsed softly, a steady rhythm in the quiet. He looked older, more worn, more fragile than at the restaurant. The cold armor he wore had vanished, replaced by a raw, hurting openness. His eyes burned with desperate intensity, fixed on hers. "Ms. Vance," his voice rasped, "please come closer." Alara approached with care, feeling a precipice near. He motioned to a chair opposite him. She sat, hands clenched. "The ring," he spoke, his voice breaking with emotion. "You said your mother has one." Alara nodded, unable to speak. "Where did she get it?" he pressed, leaning forward, all his attention on her answer. "She does not know," Alara said softly. "She has had it as long as I recall. She has amnesia, from an accident. A fall, she named it. It happened over 20 years ago." Alistair's breath caught. He closed his eyes. A wave of pain crossed his face. "An accident?" he whispered, the words holding a sour flavor in his mouth. His eyes opened, bright with unshed tears. "That ring. I created it. One exists in the entire world. I designed it for my wife, Liana, for our first anniversary. The twin phoenixes, ascending from ash. A sign of our bond. I placed it on her hand myself." He drew a ragged breath. The monitor's beep quickened slightly. "She wore it the day she died. Her car plunged from the Bixby Bridge in California. They never found her body from the ocean. Only car parts, her things. But the ring remained unfound." He looked at Alara. His gaze, full of a desperate, impossible hope, caused physical pain to see. "Ms. Vance," he pleaded, his voice shattering completely. "Please, I must see it. I must see your mother." The air in the suite grew heavy with 2 decades of sorrow. Alara stared at Alistair, her mind spinning. Liana. The name echoed, a ghost called forth by a ring's mention. Her mother was Amelia. The names held no link. This must be a mistake, a sorrowful chance. "Sir, Mr. Sterling," Alara began, her voice shaking. "I am sorry for your loss, truly. But I think there is a misunderstanding. My mother's name is Amelia Vance, not Liana." Alistair recoiled as if struck. The hope in his eyes dimmed, replaced by deep confusion. "Amelia," he repeated, testing the sound on his tongue. It felt foreign, held no meaning. "No, that cannot be. The ring. That ring is part of her soul. It is part of mine." He leaned back, his energy fading. The heart monitor quickened. Marcus Thorne, standing silently by the door, moved forward, a warning on his face. "Perhaps this is too much," Thorne spoke, his voice low, firm. "No." Alistair shot back, waving him off. He faced Alara again, his eyes seeking. "Please, just tell me about her, your mother, this accident. When? Where?" Alara felt dread coil in her stomach. "I do not know all the details." She does not either. It is all fog to her. She recalls waking in a small hospital, Harmony Creek, a few hours north of San Francisco. 20 years ago, nurses there gave her the name Amelia. She held no memory of herself or her arrival. They said she lay by the roadside, following a supposed fall. Each word Alara spoke hit Alistair. San Francisco. 20 years ago. Liana, his wife, had driven from a Carmel charity event. The Bixby Bridge lay on that route. Harmony Creek, a small town inland from that very stretch of coast. "Harmony Creek," he whispered, the name tasting of ash. His mind raced, seeking connections for impossible dots. The official report stated a tragic accident, a car lost to the violent Pacific. He spent vast sums on private search teams. They found wreckage, a torn dress piece, her purse. But never her. The ocean, they assumed, took her. Could it be? He murmured to himself. His voice held a terrible mix of hope and fear. Thrown from the car? Survived? "Sir, with respect." Alara spoke, her projective instincts for her mother rising. "My mother is a soft woman. She has built a calm life. Appearing now, bringing up a past she cannot recall, a past perhaps not even hers. It could break her." "I understand," Alistair said, his voice gaining a hint of its former force. "I will use care. But I cannot exist another day with this question over my soul. For 20 years I have been a shadow. I have been incomplete. If a slim chance exists that the woman who birthed you is the same woman who birthed my spirit, I must seize it." He looked at Marcus Thorne. "Marcus, gather everything on Harmony Creek Community Hospital. Records from 20 years past. John and Jane Doe admissions. I want names of every doctor, every nurse who worked there. Pay them if needed. I want to know who found her, who treated her. Thorne nodded, already drawing his phone. I am on it. Alistair faced Alara again, his expression easing. Miss Vance. Alara, I know this asks much of you, but I beg you, let me meet her. Not as Alistair Sterling, the billionaire. Just as a man seeking a phantom. I will not press her. I will not name Liana. I only wish to see her. To see the ring. Alara felt a split. Her life held a longing for her mother's past, for answers. She imagined a key unlocking Amelia's history, filling the empty spaces in her mind. Now, that key sat before her, dressed in silk, a man of great power, deep hurt. What if opening that door brought not repair, but a deluge that would claim them both? She met his eyes. She saw no industry leader, but a man who had lost all. A look she knew, a still form of the loss in her mother's eyes daily. Okay, she whispered, her decision clear. Okay, I will talk to her. I will arrange it. But my way, quietly, at our apartment, no show, no legal presence, just you. Thank you. A single tear tracked Alistair Sterling's cheek, the first in 20 years. Thank you, he breathed. Thank you. Alara left the Grand Hospital, returning by subway. The black car was gone, dismissed. She felt a bomb in her hands, ticking toward an unknown blast. Home, she found her mother asleep in her armchair, a book open on her lap. The silver chain and phoenix ring showed at her throat. A new, urgent need for answers drove Alara. She searched their small apartment for any hint from that past time. In her mother's closet, beneath a stack of old blankets, she found a small, old shoebox. She had seen it before, but always respected privacy. Now she opened it. Inside lay a collection of faded items, a dried flower, a bus ticket to New York. At the bottom, a yellowed envelope. She opened it, fingers trembling. Two things lay within. First, a faded photograph. It showed a young, spirited Amelia, or someone who looked just like her, her head back, laughing. Her arm held a young man. He had familiar gray eyes, a jawline like sculpted rock. A young Alistair Sterling. They stood on a beach, wind through their hair. On her left hand, gleaming in the sun, the phoenix ring. Alara's breath stopped in her throat. The second item, a plastic hospital bracelet, brittle with age, the name blurred but readable. Jane Doe. Admission date, 20 years ago. Hospital name, printed in small letters, Harmony Creek Community Hospital. Coincidence vanished. This was truth. Her mother, Amelia Vance, the soft, gentle woman sleeping nearby, was Liana Sterling. And Alara, a Queen's waitress, was daughter to one of the world's richest, most powerful men. The shoebox find rocked Alara's world. She sat on the closet floor, photograph and bracelet in trembling hands. Pieces of a life she never knew. The woman in the photo was her mother, undeniably. But different, radiant, full of a life and love, Alara only glimpsed. The man beside her, the same man who collapsed, a ghost held by that woman's memory. Her first urge, run to her mother, show the proof, shout, "You were Liana, you had a life, you were loved." But watching Amelia sleep peacefully, Alara knew the shock would prove destructive. Her mother's mind, a fragile weave. One pulled thread could unravel it all. Questions consumed her. If her mother was Liana Sterling, if she survived the crash, why was she pronounced dead? Why left a Jane Doe in a small hospital when her husband was a known man across the country? Someone had to interfere. Someone wanted her gone. Meanwhile, Alistair Sterling, spurred by 20-year-old hope, moved his vast resources. Marcus Thorne, now a private investigator with endless funds, went to Harmony Creek. Harmony Creek Community Hospital, now a modern medical facility, had been small, underfunded, 2 decades past. Records, paper files, and a dusty basement archive. Bribes were not needed. A large donation to the hospital's new pediatric wing opened every door. Marcus and a team of forensic accountants began to reassemble that week's events. They found the Jane Doe admission. A local trucker brought her in, unconscious by the roadside, miles from the Bixby Bridge crash. Severe concussion, multiple fractures, and, crucially, deep amnesia. She was the only unidentified patient that month. The trail grew warm when Marcus cross-referenced hospital staff records with Alastair's personal and financial data from that year. He sought a link, however faint. He found one, in an unexpected place. The hospital's head administrator then, Robert Finch. Finch retired to Florida a year after the event, claiming a sudden lottery win. No record of any lottery win for Finch existed, but records showed untraceable bearer bonds, $2 million, cashed by him. The bonds came from a Cayman Islands shell corporation. After days of relentless digging, Marcus Thorne linked that corporation to one person, Julian Sterling, Alastair's younger cousin. The name struck Alastair. Julian. Always lurking in his shadow, always smiling, always offering comfort. Julian managed family matters in the immediate aftermath of Leanna's death, shielding a grieving Alastair from harsh realities. He confirmed wreckage, handled death certificates, acted as a pillar of support. Marcus's team dug deeper, exposing a pattern of embezzlement and fraud. Julian ran these schemes within Sterling Industries. For years, siphoning funds. Alastair, lost in grief, had not noticed. Liana, sharp with finances, suspicious of Julian's fawning nature, had just begun an audit of family accounts weeks before her accident. She told Alastair something was wrong, millions missing. Alastair, busy with a hostile takeover, said they would look together upon his return. He never returned. The chilling truth formed. Julian knew Liana neared his exposure. The car crash provided an escape. But what if she survived? A call to the hospital, confirmation. An unknown woman from a crash arrived. Julian could easily drive to Harmony Creek. He would find Liana alive, her memory gone. A golden chance. Not to kill her too risky, but to make her vanish forever. A case of money for a corrupt administrator, Finch. Records buried. Liana Sterling, the cherished wife, declared dead, lost to the sea. Jane Doe, the amnesiac, left to drift into a new, anonymous life. A phantom with no past. Julian's secret secure. He could plunder the family fortune. The maker of Alastair's 20-year torment was not fate nor ocean nor a tragic accident. It was his own kin, his cousin, who had offered pats on the back at family gatherings for 2 decades. While Marcus unraveled the deceit, Elara prepared for a meeting. She spoke to her mother gently. "An old friend will visit, Mum. A friend from before your fall. He believes he knew you. Please be calm, it may be nothing." Amelia felt anxious, but interest stirred within her. Someone from her forgotten life was both frightful and alluring. She agreed, clutching the phoenix ring, a charm on its chain. Alastair arrived that evening, not in a town car, but a simple taxi he sent away a block from the building. He wore a simple sweater, slacks. He looked less a billionaire, more a man on a first meeting. He carried a small bunch of white freesias. Elara met him at the door. "Her favored flower?" he spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. "She always said they smelled of memory." Elara's heart ached. She led him into their small, humble living room. Amelia sat in her armchair, lamplight soft on her face. She looked up as Alastair entered. Their eyes met across the room. Silence settled. Alastair's gaze consumed her, tracing every line of a face seen only in his dreams for 2 decades. She looked older, silver in her hair, her eyes holding a sadness he did not know. But it was her, his Liana. Amelia met the handsome, sorrow-filled stranger's gaze. A strange pull, a flicker deep within her mind's fog. A familiarity so deep it alarmed her. Her hand moved instinctively to the ring at her throat. Alastair saw the motion. He took a hesitant step forward. "Hello," his voice, a raw whisper. It has been a long time." Tension filled the small apartment. Amelia clutched the phoenix ring through her blouse, her knuckles pale. She looked from the stranger's intense face to her daughter's worried one, then back again. "I am sorry," Amelia spoke, her voice soft, unsure. "Have we met before? You seem known, but—" She stopped, frustration clouding her features. This was her life's pattern. Faces in crowds, song fragments, scents promising memory, all dissolving when she tried to grasp them. Alastair's heart broke, then lifted. She did not recall him, but she felt him. That was all. It was everything. He held to Elara's rules. restraining the tidal wave of emotion that threatened to drown him. "My name is Alistair," he spoke, taking another slow step into the room. He offered the bunch of freesias. "I learned you favored these." Amelia saw the delicate white flowers. A true, surprised smile touched her lips. She took them, her fingers brushing his. She brought them to her nose, breathing deep. Her eyes closed for a moment. "They're beautiful," she murmured. "They smell of a summer afternoon by water." A memory flicker, so dim she questioned its truth. She looked up at him, her brow furrowed. "How did you know?" "A guess," Alistair lied softly, his gaze fixed on her face. Alara brought a vase for the flowers, her motions quiet, careful, not disturbing the moment's fragile hold. Alistair sat down on the old sofa, facing Amelia's armchair. He created a space, close yet wide. He did not push, he did not demand. He simply spoke. He spoke of a young woman he once knew, not Liana Sterling, the billionaire's wife. He shared stories of her stubbornness, her poor singing voice, her passion for old black and white films, her laughter at silly jokes until tears came. He spoke of an Italy trip, a failed pasta attempt ending in flour across every surface of the kitchen. He described a calm evening on a Carmel beach, watching the sunset. There he gave her a ring, 2 phoenixes, promising love reborn from hardship. Each story formed a picture of the woman she had been. Alara watched her mother, her heart tight in her throat. Amelia listened with rapt attention, her head tilted. She did not shrink from fear or confusion. Instead, a strange calm settled upon her. These tales from this stranger felt more real than her 2 decades as Amelia Vance, a life of fog and separation. "That ring," Amelia whispered, finally, looking at her hand, resting on her chest, holding the charm. "The man who gave it. He must have felt great love for her." "More than life itself?" Alistair spoke, his voice heavy with unshed tears. "He still does?" Suddenly, Amelia's eyes widened slightly. She looked past Alistair at a small framed photo on the mantelpiece, 5-year-old Alara, first school day. "You have a daughter," Alistair said, following her gaze. "She is wonderful. You did great work." "She is my whole world," Amelia spoke, her voice holding fierce, direct love. "When I woke, recalling nothing, I felt empty. Then, learning I would have her, she gave me purpose. She became my memory, my anchor." The word anchor hit Alistair, the same word she used for the ring with Alara. In that moment, he knew. Liana survived, pregnant, alone. She birthed their daughter, raised her in the small apartment. She poured all her lost life's love into the one precious thing remaining. While this emotional meeting progressed in Queens, another confrontation began across town. Marcus Thorne, holding mountains of irrefutable evidence, bank statements, sworn affidavits, the retired hospital administrator's confession, arranged a board meeting at Sterling Industries. The official purpose, a quarterly review. The true reason, a surprise attendee at the table's head. Alistair Sterling, connected by a secure video link, his face a grim mask of fury. Julian Sterling entered, smiling, sure, ready to present doctored financial reports. He froze, seeing Alistair's face on screen. "Alistair, what a surprise. We thought you were still healing." Julian's voice was too loud, his smile too broad. "I have healed enough, Julian." Alistair's voice boomed from the speakers, showing no warmth. "Enough to finally see the books, the ones Liana wanted me to see 2 decades ago." Color left Julian's face. Marcus Thorne rose. He spoke, calm and steady, detailing the full conspiracy. He named the embezzled funds, the shell corporation, the bearer bonds. Then he delivered the final, devastating blow. "We uncovered a $2 million payment to Robert Finch, former Harmony Creek Hospital administrator. Made the same week, a Jane Doe car crash survivor was admitted. A Jane Doe who, it turns out, was Liana Sterling. You did not just steal from this company, Mr. Sterling. You stole Alistair's wife. You stole a mother from her child. You buried a living woman beneath a mountain of lies." Back in the Queen's apartment, Liana's story hung, a beautiful, tragic echo. Amelia, quiet, her mind spun. She worked to link the strong feelings the stories brought with her blank history. The pieces did not snap together like a key in a lock. It felt more like warmth returning to a frozen limb, a tingling, unsure, deep reawakening of emotion. Alistair knew he could not force it. The room's fragile hope was delicate. A small, wrong move could shatter it. His heart, fuller and more afraid than in 2 decades, he stood to leave. "I have taken enough of your time," he spoke, his voice a raw whisper. "Thank you for hearing an old man's tales." He turned to the door, a movement like the heaviest act of his life. Leaving her again, even for one night, felt like a betrayal. His hand touched the doorknob. Amelia spoke, her voice small, cutting the silence. "The song." Alistair froze, his back to her, every muscle taut. "What song?" he asked, not daring to turn, not daring to hope too much. The one he would hum when she could not sleep. Amelia spoke, her eyes distant, fixed on unseen space. It was a lullaby from his mother. "I sing it to Alara sometimes. I never knew its origin. It was just present inside me." Slowly, she hummed. A simple haunting melody, slightly off-key, yet full of ancient softness. For Alistair Sterling, the world dissolved. The apartment's peeling paint, a distant siren's wail, the very air in his lungs. It all disappeared. Only that sound existed. It was the melody his own mother had hummed to him as he fought off childhood nightmares. It was the tune he whispered into Liana's ear on their honeymoon. A secret comfort, passed through generations. No one else in the world knew it. He turned slowly, his face showing pure wonder. This was no tale he told, no memory he shared. This was proof. This was her soul speaking, bypassing her mind's broken paths. Tears, long absent, streamed freely down his face. He crossed the room in 2 strides, knelt before her chair. The action was innate, an act of deep respect and surrender. He did not touch her. He simply looked, his heart brimming with agony for lost years and ecstatic joy for this single, perfect moment. "Liana." He whispered her name for the first time, not as a question, but as a clear declaration, a prayer impossibly answered. The name settled over her, not as a shock, but as a comfort. It felt right, a known comfort. It felt like arrival. She reached her hand, trembling, and gently, tentatively, touched his tear-streaked cheek. His skin felt warm, real. In that touch, that shared melody, 2 decades of distance vanished into nothing. Her factual memory was not restored. Doctors would later explain trauma had damaged those brain paths forever. But her heart remembered. The deep emotional truth of their love finally broke through the fog. Alara watched them, tears flowing down her own face. She was no longer just Amelia Vance's daughter, the quiet woman with an unknown past. She was Liana and Alistair Sterling's daughter, a living testament to a love that would not die. The days that followed spun into a chaotic whirlwind. News of Julian Sterling's spectacular arrest, fraud, embezzlement, kidnapping by deception, coupled with his wife's miraculous reappearance, became the world's biggest story. Paparazzi, sensing a feast, swarmed their humble Queens apartment building. Camera flashes, a constant strobing attack on thin curtains. Shouted questions violated the quiet, anonymous life they had always known. Alistair shielded them from it all. He arrived not with a fleet of flashy cars, but with a discreet security team. They cleared a path through the media circus with quiet, powerful ease. He personally escorted Amelia and Alara from the crumbling walk-up, their sanctuary and cage, into a new existence. He moved them to a sprawling Connecticut estate, a world apart from city lights. He had bought it years ago, but never lived there. Acres of rolling hills, ancient trees. Gardens held thousands of white freesias, a fragrant sign of a memory he never released. He brought in top neurological specialists, not to fix her, but to help her join her life's 2 halves. They explained Amelia Vance was not false, but a true identity her mind had painstakingly built to survive unimaginable trauma. The aim, not to erase Amelia, but to blend her with Liana's ghost. After much thought, she chose the name Leah, a bridge between the women she was. For Alara, the change struck with staggering force. She went from budgeting grocery money to having a personal chef asking her dietary preferences, but wealth's sudden impact was secondary to the emotional shift of gaining a father. This powerful, intense man suddenly centered his attention on her, with an attentiveness that was both wonderful and vast. He sought all, her favorite books, her worst fears, her hidden dream of writing. One evening, he found her curled up in a library window seat, scribbling in a worn notebook. She tried to conceal it, feeling embarrassed. He gently asked if he could read it. Trembling, she asked if he could read it. Trembling, she passed it to him. He sat an hour, reading her writing, his expression unseen. Finally, he looked up, his eyes bright. "You have your mother's soul," he spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. "And a talent all your own." This is striking, Alara. It marked the first time someone beyond her mother had truly seen her. That confirmation brought ease to a part of her heart she did not know was wounded. Slowly, with care, they began to build a new family. They ate quiet dinners, not in a large dining hall, but a small, cozy nook overlooking the gardens. Alistair, a man who had eaten alone for 2 decades, now laughed until his sides ached at Alara's sharp observations about their new existence. Leah, no longer held by a past she could not grasp, thrived. A clear, bright calm replaced the haze in her eyes. She and Alistair walked the gardens for hours, not always speaking, but simply learning each other's presence, their hands held together. While this delicate new life grew, the final act of the old one finished. Julian Sterling's trial moved fast. The evidence, too great to overcome. He received decades in prison, a quiet end for a man whose crimes had ripped through many lives. Alistair attended only the sentencing. He felt no win, no pleasure in his cousin's ruin. Looking at the broken, angry man in the defendant's box, he felt only a profound sense of pity and waste. His justice lay not in a court. It lay home, in his wife's laughter. One crisp autumn afternoon, a year from when Alara served him dessert at Le Ciel Étoilé. The three stood on a hill overlooking the estate. Trees blazed with red and gold. The air felt clean, sharp. Alistair turned to the two women, his world. "A year passed," he began, his voice firm. "I was a shadow in my life's ruins. I thought I had lost all. But I was wrong. Her best part was secure. Her best part was with you, Alara." He looked at his daughter, love showing in his eyes. "You were her anchor. You kept her soul safe until I returned." He then turned to Leah, taking her hands. "And you, my love, you survived the impossible. You built a life from empty space. You are the strongest person I have known." He reached into his pocket, pulled a small velvet box. Not new, costly jewelry, the original phoenix ring. Leah had given it for cleaning, repair. He slid it from its chain. For the second time, he placed it on her fourth finger. It fit perfectly. "For my wife," he said. "For Liana, and for Amelia, and for the amazing woman who is both." He then handed Alara a small leather-bound book. Her stories, the ones from her notebook, which he had had privately printed and bound. The title on the cover read, "The Phoenix's Daughter." Leah smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. She squeezed her daughter's hand and her husband's. "We found our way back to each other because of you, my love," she told Alara. "A mother's love, a daughter's hope, and a ring that recalled even when I could not."